Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, all of that jazz. Whatever it is, I hope it's good. All right, I try to keep things as short as possible nowadays because I have a tendency to ramble. People don't like that, so let's just get into it. You ready? Let's go. So what we're going to talk about really quick here is how to basically take Illustrator files and import them into After Effects in such a way that you can actually use them for animation. Now, if you are used to sort of what I would call industrial, corporate, commercial, sort of After Effects type of stuff, you might end up with exactly these kinds of things. Now, what happens is that you might end up either creating or receiving a file with a whole bunch of items like this, right? There's at least 30, maybe 40 different items, attributes, whatever you want to call them, elements here. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that every item that you want to animate as its own entity is on its own layer inside of After Effects. What do I mean by its own entity? So we have this cloud icon in the back. Maybe I want to animate the cloud on. I want it to sort of pop on, scale, slide, whatever I want it to do. If I want it to come on all by itself without any other things, any of these labels or lines, I'm going to cut it. I'm using a PC, so for me, it's a Control X or whatever it is on the Mac. You create a new layer, and then you paste it. All right, and then you would drag it kind of in the layer order that you want it to be. Now here's a secret about layer order. You kind of want to work, what I like to say, from the last item first all the way back to the first item you want to animate. So for instance, let's say this little text that I just highlighted is technically the last item you want to animate on screen. You actually want to put that on its own layer first, right? So I would hit X, I would cut it, and I would paste it, and then maybe I want to take this text label here, animate that next, and then I would paste it, and then I've got these arrows here, I would grab these, and I would cut them, new layer, paste it, this text in this box, I want that to be an element to animate, cut it, paste it, this item, I want that to animate together. I would cut that, new layer, paste it. You see what I'm doing here? Like, so here, rates of conversion. I'm gonna select all these elements here, these arrows, this box, and even this guy up here, because I want these all to animate together. I'm gonna cut those, new layer, and I'm gonna paste them. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna build your, when you import this into Illustrator, I like to animate from the bottom layer up. It kind of gives you a really cool stair step effect, which we will see here shortly, so I'm not going to get too much into detail about why. But if you cut and paste your last item first, you will start to build your Illustrator file in such a way that your very last item keeps getting pushed up in the stack. So you see here in the layer order, it's now at the top of the stack, and that's what you want. You want your very last item to be at the top of the stack, and you want the first item that you're animating to be at the very bottom of the stack, because when you import that into After Effects, it will import into that layer order. So I've already done that for this entire illustration. So if we go over here to After Effects, the next thing that you would do is, and we'll do this just for sake so you can see it, I'm going to grab this. You would say when you import this Illustrator file, you say you want it as a composition and that you want the footage dimension to be layer size. Otherwise, if you say footage, it's just going to bring it up as a merged layer, or you can select a specific layer. We don't want that. You want to select composition and then layer size. Don't do document size, because every layer will then be whatever the document size of the Illustrator file is. Very unwieldy. Much better to do layer size. And then when you hit OK, you will end up with a you're going to end up with something that looks like what I've got here. So I've already started to animate this a little bit so you can see what's happening. In this case, I said, hey, the first item you want to animate is at the bottom of the stack, and then you see how this starts to stair step up. Don't worry about these guys here. We haven't gotten to these yet. In fact, we can just push these back. Boink! Just worry about these. So the cloud comes in, then this little icon, then that icon, and then this. See how everything starts to sort of build its way out? And then the cool thing is, as we build it out, I always like to build from the bottom up. And the reason is because whatever's on the top is on the top graphically, right? Makes sense. Whatever's on top in your layers is what's on top of everything below it. That's just the way it works. It has its layer order, and it's more logical. It's ridiculous to build things from the top down, because the stair step effect only works from the bottom up when you're heading from a left to right environment. So make sure you build your Illustrator files like I just talked about, and then when you start building in here, you'll be all set up for that. So let's talk about something else that's really cool. Let's start off with these lines. You'll notice that these lines are different colors. And by the way, the colors of my layers are going to be different than yours, because you can change your preferences for how layers look. Where are they at? Here in labels. See, I've changed everything just because I like my color scheme better. I think, I love After Effects, but the default colors are pretty bad. So I've changed everything to something that I like. And you'll notice that I have two shape layers here in my compositions. Every time you see something that is this sort of medium yellow or / this yellowish orange, it is going to be a shape layer. And you'll notice that I've got some shape layers here. However, why do we have shape layers in a file that we've imported from Illustrator? We will get into that into just a second. But in the meantime, let's just go ahead and animate these. One of the things that I like to do, see how we have these kind of dotted lines here? If we open up those contents, you'll see we have an offset value under dashes. Whenever you have dotted lines, you will have something under dashes. You will have a dash and a gap. I like to do offset, and then I'll say I will Alt-click or Option-click if you're on a Mac to bring up the expressions, and I will say time, and then you use an asterisk, which in most coding languages means multiply by. So time multiplied by 30. And what it's going to do is it's going to multiply from the first vertex, which happens to be this one here on the right, to this one. If it was a negative number, it would go in the opposite direction. So negative 30, now it'll start to animate in that direction. But we don't want it to animate in that direction, so we're going to keep it a positive number. So we've got this. Whoop, that's perfect. We can also do something else that's really cool. We can go here and we can say add underneath contents. You can say add. We'll say trim paths. And then we're just going to figure out which direction we need to go to get these trim paths to move. Now, where did the trim paths go? I like to put the trim paths at the bottom if possible, right there under the stroke. It's just a visual thing. And we want it to go this way. So we want it to go from right to left, okay? So we're going to start at 100%, go down 10 frames, and then in this case, we want it to go to 0%. Does that sound weird? Yes, it's weird, but that's just kind of how it works, okay? Wait a second here. I've pressed the wrong button, so let's do that again. We want it to start at 100%, or 0. Yes, we want it to start at 100% and go to 0. I know that sounds backwards. That's the way After Effects works, okay? So now you'll see the lines come out, they animate, and then we've got this line up here. Let's do the same thing. In fact, we can probably just copy that trim paths and paste it. And sometimes that works amazingly. Sometimes it doesn't. We'll find out here. There are 2 groups here. That can be a problem. Let me get rid of one of those groups. And then let's find out where the trim path is. There we go. So you'll notice that in this trim path, it's going in the opposite direction. So one of the things we could do is the following. But the easiest thing to do is open up contents, click on the group, and then the path itself, and then click on this icon. See if that does it. Oh, this is going, you're about to see something that drives me crazy. This will close the path. I don't know why it does that. I just don't know why. So we're just going to go in the exact opposite here. I'm just going to swap these keyframes. Doesn't work, does it? So we're going to turn off that, start. There we go. Look, After Effects, especially when you're working with lines, it's mind-boggling. I've been doing this for decades, and I still get it backwards because normally you can set the first and second, you can kind of set whatever your first vertex is, but you can't necessarily set your second vertex. And so therefore, if you set this as first, it might then see your old first as your second vertex, and then the line gets drawn from here to here to here, and then this is left open when obviously you want it to be closed. It drives me crazy. Adobe, please fix that. So instead, whereas this one here we were adjusting where the end of the trim paths were, up here we're doing the start. It's the same net effect, it's done correctly, but it's just annoying. So now we've got these things coming out. Boop, they come out. That looks great. Let's go find this guy. These guys both come out. So then one thing I like to do is that for things like this, I might grab the transform widget and just sort of drag it to the line. And then what I can do is the following. I can say scale, go out another 10 frames, say 100%, go back, change these to 0, and they will now sort of animate from those transform widgets, and it just, whoop, just kind of comes out looking nice. And then we hit a little bit of an ease on it. The only thing that's missing is that there's just a little bit of ease missing here. I like to have it kind of, there we go. Oh, that looks nice. Super nice. Look at that. So like when you start to build things like that, a really sort of confusing, not confusing, but just a complicated graph, something that's hard for people to follow just when it's a static thing, you really have to look at it. You're basically building the steps for them to look at it. You're basically helping them digest what's in front of them. So we'll just hit play again. You can kind of see how everything sort of builds on nice and easy. So let's go do the opposite side here. And that is these objects all over here and that guy. So we're going to pull these back. And we'll pull these guys over here. And then what I want to start to animate is this guy first. So he came in as a layer, but we want it to be a shape layer so we can work with it, so we can animate it, so we can turn it into live vector. Here's a really cool thing I didn't realize about After Effects until way later when it comes to importing Illustrator files. And the whole video is almost kind of about this cool little feature. If you right click and you say create and say shapes from vector, it'll turn that Illustrator layer into a shape layer. So you see how it's automatically turned off this layer and it says layer 28 outlines and layer 28? We can actually delete the original layer 28 and only work with the outlines. And here we have all of the paths turned into physical vector objects that we can then animate. Now there is a problem. When this file was built, it was kind of built in some sort of broken way. And unfortunately, that means some of these groups are completely useless to us. So I am, in fact, going to be deleting a lot of the things that we just converted. But honestly, that's okay because most of what we needed here is still here. So I can click on this guy. And let's see if it'll let me. You can always do this. Grab these two guys. Drag that like that. Drag him like that. Bring this over so it matches. It also looks like the color's a little bit different, so we'll go like that so it matches that. And now we have this beautiful vector shape. And the nice thing is we don't have to guess what the dash size is because that stuff is a pain in the booty. It's all done for us. We can hit offset again. We can say time multiplied by 30. And you can see it animates out. I mean, what a cool effect that is. And then again, just like we did before, we can come over here, contents, add, trim paths. Here's our trim paths. Let's see which one of these is going to work for us. Not that one. That one works though. So we can start that at 100, come down here, hit another keyframe, turn that to 0, and check it out. That works great. We'll put an ease on this. I'm using a third-party plugin called Flow. It's $30. Go buy it from aescripts.com. It'll change your life. Otherwise, just hit F9 for easy ease. And this is just a much more comprehensive version of that. Normally, your easy ease is this one here, but you get all of these through Flow. It's so much better. I can't even begin to tell you just how much better it is. Okay, come down 10. We've got this guy. Let's bring him out. What I've been doing is I've been scaling and opacitizing them. So we'll come out. This guy's going to be 0% of that, 200% of that. He's going to ease out of that. So we kind of got this effect. See how cool that is? It just looks like it's punching straight into it when you just ease things like that. That's like the big part about animation. Just understanding where your easing is, because your easing is sort of the intention of the motion, right? And if you can figure that out, everything is awesome. So we got this bar here. This is another case where we can just do scale, come down 10. Whoops. We're a little bit, there we go. That's way better. Hit that guy. We'll just change this to 0. It'll look like it's growing up. So, whoop, like that. Is that how we're kind of doing it over here? Yeah. Let me just check, make sure. Look how cool that is. In fact, we can even bring this one. It's a longer line, so there's more animation time on this side, so we can sort of preempt that. So he comes out like that. Then we've got these guys, which then what I do with this is the same sort of thing. A little bit of transparency, position, go out 10 frames, new keyframes, come back. I'm just coming back like exactly right in the middle there. I'm changing that opacity to 0. I'm hitting that so that way we get a nice ease on the ending frames there. Look at that. And then what did we do after that? Then we hit these two guys. And again, we've got these two frames. Let's bring them up here. And then who's this guy? That is ramp metrics. We'll bring him up there. Bring him up one more. Bring these guys back like that. Okay. Drag these guys over here. Again, we want to go create shapes from vector. It may not be perfect. That's okay. Let's delete the frames or the layers that we don't need, which are the two old AI frames. They're gone. They're out of there. Now we've just got vector object shape layers of these two items here. And we're going to do exactly what we did before. We're going to do it one more time. And that is just doing the shape layers. Make sure that everything looks good. Everything looks great. Oh, and then the one thing we need to do is offset time x 30. Are we going in the right direction? Let's find out. No, we're not. So this is one of those cases where we need to do time x negative 30. And now that's going in the right direction. And then, of course, here we go again. We're going to say trim paths, if I can find it, if I can use the power of my meager mind to actually find what I'm looking for. And this one's nice. This actually is going in the right direction. So that way to this way. And then I want to put the ease at the start. Same thing over here. for the other line, contents. Maybe we can just copy this, paste that, see what we get. I can't tell. I can't. Oh, look at that. It actually goes in the right direction. Hallelujah. Wow. Sometimes things are easy. Sometimes. Not often. 50-50. I mean, I shouldn't say off. I mean, it's 50-50, literally. Okay, bring these guys back. Same thing that we did the last time. Grab him. Grab his transform. Bring him to the line. Grab this guy. Grab his transform. Bring him to the line. Hit S for scale. Go out 10. The reason why I keep going out 10 is because that's just what feels good. Whoops. It's just what feels good. I like things to be fast. A lot of people animate over seconds. A lot of people animate over half seconds. I like thirds of seconds. If it's a really long distance, like I just did a job that had a canvas size of 15,000 plus pixels across. You can't animate 15,000 pixels across because it was like it translated to 120 feet of physical space. You can't animate 120 feet in a third of a second. Nobody can see it. It's just like, what? You know, but at 1920 by 1080 standard HD, you know, or full HD, that's more than fine. So let's take the scales for both these guys, bring them down to 0, and then you'll see, doink, just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the rest for this, but I'm going to leave this video here for now because we are exactly 20 minutes already into this video, and I don't want to make it too long. So I think that's long enough. If you have any questions, let me know. If you hated this video, you don't have to hit the like button. Just put in the comments what you didn't like about it. But be constructive. Just say you ramble too much, you don't explain things, be more specific, because I will make it better the next time around, I promise. If you did like the video, please tell me the things that you did like you learned something that you didn't know before, or the things that you would like to learn more of. Just let me know that too. And that's about it. I hope you guys have an amazing time going out there and enjoying yourselves in After Effects land. And I will talk to you all soon. Peace out.